Hi, and welcome to the Lone Star Play Podcast, where we sit, eat, chat, and repeat. I'm your host, Patrick Scott Armstrong, and we are coming to you from Austin, Texas. The Lone Star Play Podcast is produced by Texas Real Food. Go to texasrealfood.com, and you can search your city for local restaurants, stores, butchers, farmers markets, and more who are using organic, fresh, artisanal, and local sources. It's a fun site that brings all natural options all together.
Everything takes a long time. People are more comfortable with their own little thoughts and growing up habits and what have you. And it takes a long time for those things to embrace the public, embrace relationships with people of different colors, different structures, and what have you.
All right, guys, and thank you for joining us for another wonderful episode. I am speaking to Johnny Mathis. So you just heard him. That was him, the legend, national treasure. I was so excited to talk to Johnny. To be honest with you, I kind of fumbled over my question. I mean, I just be real. Like, you know, I was a little intimidated, to be honest, to talk to him. I haven't felt that way before. But, you know, he's just got such an extensive career, and he's, you know, set records. You know, I mean, this is Johnny Mathis we're talking about. So, I mean, look, guys, he invented, I'm just going to list off some things about him. So you know him from songs like Misty, Wonderful, Wonderful, Chances Are, which is my favorite. It's Not For Me to Say, and many other things. He also invented well, he was the first one to release on Columbia Records a greatest hits album. So, you know, all those bands that you listen to, you have the greatest hits. Yeah, he was the first one to do it. So, you know, trendsetter there. You know, obviously growing up African-American and Native American during that time, right, in the 50s, trying to get known and sing. You know, he opened doors, okay, for a lot of people. So breaking through race relations, right? He also came out later in life as gay later. So, you know, this is an incredible man who's withstood a lot and come out on top. He's had an illustrious career, and he's actually only one of 5 artists. Okay, this is crazy. Only one of 5 artists to have a top 40 Billboard hit in every decade of his career. So 5 decades, he's had a top 40 hit. It's just, yeah, he's incredible. Look, he's played for, you know, presidents, heads of states, celebrity, you name it, right? He has done it all over the world. Been in movies. It's Johnny Mathis. He was an athlete. He tells this great story in the interview about Bill Russell, right? The famous basketball player, Bill Russell from the Celtics. Just an incredible guy. He talks about going on the Ed Sullivan the Ed Sullivan show, and you know, 4 or 5 times and playing, right? Like, he just skyrocketed. I mean, Ed Sullivan. So just some great stories. He really, you know, just was an amazing person to speak to. So we spoke a little bit about Texas and food, what he, you know, he's 82, maybe 83. He wasn't sure. So, you know, I'm just going to go with, you know, whatever he says, 82. So, you know, it sounds like he's 21, right? When you hear him. So just, you know, really sit back, enjoy this interview. Look, it's a little short and sweet. It's only about 30 minutes, but look, it's to the point, and that's just all the time I could get with Johnny. And I you know, absorbed every second of it. So again, I really hope you enjoy it. Sit back, relax. And yes, let me present Johnny Mathis. So I know you were on the Ed Sullivan show. I was just curious, you know, what Ed Sullivan was like in person, and also what that did to the trajectory of your career.
Well, most people don't realize that Ed Sullivan was a columnist. He was a newspaper guy, and he had the good fortune of, you know, having a television show. And he was very, very awkward in a very nice way. He had no training in doing what he did, introducing acts on television, but he was very famous in the New York area. So it was kind of an understanding of anybody who went on the Ed Sullivan Show. Mostly the people who had been on more than once. That he was like a little lost lamb, introducing. He got a lot of the introductions wrong sometimes, but he had this wonderful time slot on television. When was it, Sunday night or something like that? And it took off like mad. But it was very awkward working on the show. It was a tiny, tiny little theater, and everybody was crammed in, a small audience, and the acts. He had acts like dog acts and all sorts of animal acts, and we were all in the same room together backstage.
Oh gosh, so they're getting all the best treats back there in the green room. Everyone's having to share everything. That's crazy. Just a small cramped space. Yeah. So that obviously did a lot for your career, right? To be on there. Was it like an overnight thing? Did it take a while? How did that feel for you?
The marvelous part about it was that it came along after I had a lot of success with my songs, but one appearance on his show, singing your new record, which is what I was so happy about. I went on several times, I think maybe 4 or 5 times, and I would always sing my latest record. And actually, the studio where I recorded was only about 10 minutes away from the television station, so it was all kind of cozy in New York, but you were on national television, and it was.
Wow!
I was always amazed at the fact that all of this was going on in this tiny little area of New York. The studio was very small. The studio audience was very small, but it was a big deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's Sullivan. I mean, it's just crazy. Johnny, you're a legend. First of all, you're a national treasure. It's just, again, it's just so great to talk to you about all this stuff. Another interesting fact I found out that I just think is absolutely amazing is that you invented the greatest hits album. Just the idea of that, I think that's like absolutely amazing. Those are like all the albums I own are all greatest hits. It just brings everything together, like for every artist. I think that's, you're just such a groundbreaker in so many ways. Was that an idea you had, or did somebody come up, to you with that, or what was it? How did that go about?
The guy's name was Mitch Miller. He was the head of popular music for Columbia Records at the time that I was there. I worked very little with Mitch. He's a very obviously interested in being on television and things of that nature himself. Even though all he was an executive at Columbia Records, but he had a funny kind of thing that happened. He got a lot of young men and women together, about maybe 10 or 12 of them, and called it something. But they sang along with Mitch, sing along with Mitch. That was what it was called. And he became very popular. He was very gregarious. He was very interested in making a lot of money, but he did his job, and I was very fortunate to work with him because he was a very big wheel at the record company.
Wow, that's amazing. Probably being around so many talented people got him excited to want to do it himself, right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that seems, what happened to me for sure. Wow, that's fantastic. So look, Johnny, you were actually born here in Texas, in Gilmer, Texas, which is, East Texas. That is Texas, if there is a Texas, where you were born. And I know you did move off to Northern California, but, when's the last time you've been back to Texas, or do you come here often? Is this? What do you think?
I sing. I used to sing in Dallas in a wonderful room that they had at one of the large hotels there. Sang there, but I also sang in. They had wonderful theaters there, and for many years I went back and back and back. And the most wonderful and kind of little aside thing was I loved going back there because I'm a golfer, and I'd always watched these wonderful golfers, professional golfers, play golf, and it was many times it was coming from very the golf courses around the Texas area where I was singing, and I was very happy to, the minute I'd get off stage, I'd run over to the golf course and start hanging out where all my favorite golfers were. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got into golf. I know you were, an amazing athlete, track athlete. You did so many things, you're so well talented. And yeah, so then you got into golf and do you still play golf, to this day?
My big claim to fame as an athlete was that there was a guy by the name of Bill Russell who subsequently became, I guess, the greatest basketball player of all time. And we were pals. We grew up in San Francisco together. He went to USF. I went to San Francisco State College. And we were pals, and he was very, very prominent and very famous, but as a basketball player. But I used to go over to his campus and practice my high jumping. And he asked me if I could teach him how to high jump. I mean, he's 6 feet 10 inches tall, and how to get that much human over these high jump bars. But eventually, he and I became real good pals, and he did join me in several competitions as high jumper, and we'd go up and down the coast of California, entering into contests that were put on by all the universities.
Yeah.
And Bill and I became really good pals, and right all the way through when he started to play for the Celtics and became, and audaciously famous.
Oh yeah.
I was starting my career, and I had a place that I sang at in Boston, and I used to hang out with him. And it was so funny because we went to school together, and then all of a sudden we got involved in professional athletics and music, and we were still very close for many years.
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, he's a legend in basketball, right? It's Bill Russell. Wow, that's amazing. And you guys were pole vaulting, and we were
high jumpers.
Or high jumping. I'm sorry, high jumping. Yeah.
Oh no, you can't put a pole in the hand of a guy that's 6 feet 10.
He'd be taller than the pole, right? It just
Right.
That wouldn't work. Yes, high jumping. Oh yeah, how's he gonna get that high jump?
Yeah, we had no pole. We just
God.
had to jump over.
Wow, that's amazing. Wow, yeah, you've had just such an illustrious career, and it's just wow, that's fantastic. What kind of look, this is our podcast is about food in some ways. So I'm curious. I know you love to cook. I know you love to, put on dinners, have people out, right? You love to entertain with food because that's what food does, right? It brings people together. You have great conversations. It's such a great thing. Food can really, breaking bread with somebody can really, create a relationship. I'm curious if having a relationship with food for yourself has, helped you get to even this age, right? And still singing and still having top 40 hits in every decade you've ever sang, I mean, which is unbelievable. Like, do you think having a relationship with food has helped you in that way?
Absolutely. It's very important, as any professional singer will tell you, is to have support. And food is very important. Your singing is very physical, and it helped me so much. My mom and my dad had 7 children, and I was right in the middle. And I used to watch my mom and my dad. The way they supported us was they worked for very wealthy people in the San Francisco area and cooked for them and, cleaned their homes and what have you. So I learned to cook at an early age, and it's just a very, very big part of my life as the years went on. I would be so far away from home in Germany or Italy, and I'd call my mom or my dad and say, "How do you make this? How do you cook this?" But I had such a close relationship with my mom and my dad. The reason I sing is because my dad sang, and he just insisted that if I wanted to sing, we'd take some voice lessons. And I did that from a very early age, and of course, it was the foundation for my career.
Wow. Amazing. Yeah, food is, look at that. Food got you singing, maybe. I don't know. Can we give that claim? I don't know. Maybe. Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, food is it's so important in everybody's lives. It's something I think a lot of people kind of push to the side, even though it's something you do all day. I mean, most people plan their whole day around food, where they're going to eat, what they're doing, where we're going for dinner, what's for lunch, whatever the case may be. And especially now with the pandemic going on and everything, it's absolutely even more important to maintain a healthy immune system and, watch what you're eating even more importantly now. And especially, I don't know if you know, but farmers are getting a lot more attention now.
Absolutely.
And especially and in California, I know as well, and in Texas too, really all over, they're just getting a lot of attention and, for serving local food. Is that how you like to eat yourself, or you kind of just mix everything together?
All of the above.
All of the above. Yeah, absolutely. I do the same thing. I mean, I do. I do the same thing. I think that's it. The balance. It's just about a nice balance of a little bit of everything. So look, Johnny, I know there's, we're talking and everything seems fine, but if you were to go out in any major city right now, you would see a lot happening. And there's a major movement happening in America with the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm curious yourself, coming from African American and Native American descent. My mother is from Mexico City, and I know part of my family has Indian as well, more, Central American, but I sort of, grew up with a lot of that in my, culture as well. I always went to Mexico as a kid. I spent pretty much half my life growing up there. I'm curious, how you see this whole movement going right now. What are your thoughts on it? I don't want to be too specific. I just sort of want to get a feel for what you feel is happening.
Most of my life, because of what I do, having a profession, as probably most people who have a profession will agree, was very consuming and very attention orientated all the time, morning, noon, and night. From the time I get up in the morning till the time I go to bed at night, it is a constant with me in all sorts of ways, privately, and the food that I eat, the relationships that I have with people, and it's a constant, and it's a never-ending thing, especially if you're going to make it your life's profession. And I was very fortunate to be raised in a large family where I was always a part of something. And that's the way it has been in my career. I depend so much on songwriters, musicians, to accomplish what I have to do. And that is a constant with me. And even at the age of 82. I think I'm 82. I may be 83, but I hate to look forward to that. But it's a constant with me, and it's something that I still, it's in the forefront of my mind all the time when I wake up in the morning, whatever I do during the day. It's always about making sure that I don't abuse a gift that from the heavens and from God that was given to me in my musical career. So, it's I'm, as I say, I think I'm 82. I might be 83, but I don't want to be 83. I want to be 82. But it's still with me, morning, noon, and night.
Yeah. Wow, that's powerful. So, did you face a lot of, I don't know, a good way to put that, a lot of racial hurdles as you were going through your career? Was that you were definitely a groundbreaker. You opened a lot of doors. That's what I, through my research, that's what I found out. So I'm curious, was that something at the did you really, I don't know, was it at the forefront of your mind? Did you sort of push to the side? I don't even know how how you would deal with that back in that time.
Oh, you mean racism?
Yeah. Going through your career, like the hurdles of that.
You had to be practical, being in, out front like that all the time. You had to be very careful about your appearances, where you went, and it was many years before I felt comfortable going down south singing in public places. It just didn't appeal to me at the time.
Sure.
But as things happen, people became, more civilized, shall we say, and things worked out. I was very, very fortunate.
Yes, absolutely. No, just the way that you see it that way is so fantastic. Do you think, like, with everything happening in the streets and the Black Lives Matter movement that's happening right now, do you, obviously we want to see change. Are you, you've seen a lot of change, since you began your career to now. Do you think there's going to be actual changes from all of this happening?
Absolutely. Everything takes a long time. People are more comfortable with their own little thoughts and growing up habits and what have you. And it takes a long time for those things to embrace the public, embrace relationships with people of different colors, different structures, and what have you. It's something that I have seen from the time I was a little kid, growing up in San Francisco, of course, where we had no problem in that regard. People were a little bit ahead of the world in that particular area, and I was very lucky having no problems in that regard. Human beings are eventually going to learn that it's better to get along.
Absolutely. Well said. It really just comes down to that. We got one planet, right? It's all of us together. I recently spoke to Dustin Lance Black, Johnny. I don't know if you know who that is. He is a founding board member for the American Foundation for Equal Rights, but he also won the Oscar for writing the best original screenplay for the movie Milk that came out back in 2009. Sean Penn was in it. I don't know if you remember that movie. You grew up in San Francisco, so I'm sure you remember Harvey Milk from that time.
Yes, I do. He was in the San Francisco area when I was there.
Did you ever have any interactions with him? Were you involved in that movement? I know you came out later in life. Was that something that was a part of your life back then as well?
Oh, yeah. As long as you're comfortable in your environment, which I was. I had grown up in San Francisco, which is so multicultural. It was de rigueur.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it's such a powerful movement back then. And talking to Dustin about that and about the movie and, all the research he did and, and even him, again, he was part of the American Foundation for Equal Rights that got, fought Proposition 8 in California, and then to the Supreme Court that got, gay marriage legalized in America. And it's Pride Month this month. What do you have a message for anybody out there, Johnny, about that? I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. It really is as simple as that. So I'm curious, Johnny. Look, you're amazing artist. Again, national treasure, legend. I could just go on. I'm curious what music you listen to, because you obviously play and sing amazing music. But what do you have on your iTunes playlist or whatever app you use for music? Or do you use apps? Do you still listen to like vinyls, and how does that work?
Well, I have all sorts of ways of listening to music, vinyl, and of course I've got my little whatever you call that thing you put in your ears, and yes, I'm constantly listening to music. I started my life as a singer with my dad, who was my first mentor. He insisted that if I really wanted to learn to sing properly, to maintain my voice over the years, I was going to take some lessons. So I was very fortunate to meet a wonderful woman who I studied voice production with for about 12 years. From the time I was about 8 or 9 years old, my voice hadn't changed yet, and so we went through that process too, vocally. And so by the time I was 18 years old, I had spent 5 or 6 years studying voice production with a wonderful teacher. So when I got my opportunity to record for Columbia Records, I was at least fundamentally, musically and vocally pretty competent, which is probably 85% of the reason that I've been able to maintain my voice over the years.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, because you're still killing it. Like, did you have a bunch of shows get canceled because of the pandemic as well?
Oh, yes. I haven't sung publicly for months.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sitting around waiting for things to calm down.
Sure, absolutely. Was that basically the only thing it affected for you, was just having live shows, or did you see maybe an opportunity to do something else, maybe record some new music, or?
No, I've recorded, when it's available.
Yeah.
I had a long history with Columbia Records, but I was just thinking the other day I hadn't recorded in a long time. But that was the genesis of my life as a singer. But I've gone on to find out other ways, and mostly because I travel the world and sing in Africa and Brazil and France, and the thing that I kind of think about is how fortunate I was to grow up in San Francisco, where multicultural music and language, and over the years it's really stood me in good stead because of the world traveling that I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have a favorite country that you love to go to in particular?
I love Brazil.
Brazil. Never been. I'm sure the food, I've had tons of Brazilian food. Not in Brazil, though. See, it's got to be different. Yeah, I would love to go to Brazil. What do you like about it? Is it anything in particular?
Everything.
Yeah.
The people, the music, the language, fascinating, wonderful language to sing in, and Portuguese. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Do you sing in other languages?
Oh, sure. I sing in 6, 7 different languages. I recorded a lot of songs, and a lot of my successful songs in America I recorded in French, German,
Wow.
Portuguese. Yeah.
Wow. Does that take a long time to learn that, or are you pretty keen on just picking that up pretty quick?
I studied languages in school, so it came pretty good to me, and mostly it's the pronunciation that's very important.
Again, thank you so much for the time, Johnny. Again, I wish you the best. Please stay safe out there.
Thank you so much.
All right, I really hope you enjoyed that podcast as much as I did. If you have any questions for me, please feel free to email the podcast at patrick@texasrealfood.com. And don't forget, you can check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, all the different places you can get podcasts. You'll find us on there. Or you can just go to our website, go to thelonestarplate.com. And you can check us out on YouTube if you want to watch it. We video these, on a little webcam here, and go to the Texas Real Food YouTube channel, and you can find it there. Make sure to follow Texas Real Food as well on Instagram and Facebook. Subscribe. And if you are so inclined, please leave us a review anywhere you can. Follow us on Spotify or leave a review on Apple Podcast. That would really help us out. Thanks again for listening. Really do appreciate it. Without you guys, what's the point of doing this? So if you have any suggestions on how we can make the show better, please let us know. Thanks again. Be safe out there. Wash your hands.